Tonight I want to talk about a very important topic that, Baruch Hashem, thank God I'm already married for 13 years, so I don't need to deal with it. And I thank God 50 times a day that I am already past that. But unfortunately I deal with hundreds, if not thousands, of my students and followers with the problem of how to find the right other half. And anyone who's on the market deals with the same problem. How do I know who's my other half? How can I choose my right other half? And literally everybody's kind of going crazy about the entire topic, which it's understandable. I mean, you're about to spend the rest of your life with a certain individual, and for the first part of your life, all you've been doing is dreaming about that individual. I mean, my little girl, she's like 3 years old. She gets dressed as a bride with a white dress. And then she calls my 5-year-old and she says, "You're my husband. Go do this, go do that." She's bossing him around. And then she says, "You're not a good husband." So she goes to the other brother. "Okay, now you're my husband." And since you're like a little girl, you're dressed with a white dress and you can't wait already for the day of the wedding. For whatever reason, only the girls do it. The boys don't do that. They start playing the role when they get older. But all my girls are the same thing. My other girl, she gets dressed with all these schmattes and she plays, okay, you are the band, you are the rabbi, and they're making all these shows. But the reality is that since we're very little, we're already thinking, I wonder who I'm going to marry. And who's my husband, and how my wife is going to look like. And our entire life, we're waiting for the day that I'm going to meet my other half, and then spend the rest of my life walking into sunsets, holding hands. And people see too many movies, so that's what they think marriage is, holding hands and walking into sunsets. It's not like that, I can assure you. It's nothing even close to that. And that's the problem. The problem is that we have a very distorted and misconception about marriage. Why? Because when we grow up, we see movies and we look at things, especially movies, and we look at different scenarios and we're like, oh, that's how it should be, and that's how I want it to be, and my wife should look like that, and my husband should look like this. But it's because our entire life we're kind of being programmed a certain way. So when we're adults and it's time for us to look for the other half, then we're totally misguided. And then what happens, the result is that I'm totally walking in the dark with my eyes closed and I don't even know what I'm looking for. So it's one of the most important topics to address, because most people, and unfortunately I can't say the young ones, because in our days even the older ones are in the same exact place. And in our age, in our time, in our generation, it's not even 30s, it's already going into 40s. And unfortunately, there's so much misguidance and so much information is missing that unfortunately many people, they're just lost. Now, before we even try to find a solution or some type of a guidance, we have to kind of go back to the original and first look about why all our life we're drawn to find another person that I'll end up marrying who's going to annoy me for the rest of my life. When you're thinking of it, it's a very weird thing. But we're drawn to something all the time. We're constantly looking for, I'm looking for somebody to share my life with. And you're walking around, if you're not married, with some type of a void in your heart and a void in your soul, and you're looking for that other person to fill that void. And unfortunately, again, finally you do find him or her, and then you're annoyed with that person for the rest of your life. So in order to find a solution, first we have to understand the problem. And I always like going to the original. And the original is the first marriage, the first couple, which is Adam and Eve. And everything goes back to the first day of the world, which is actually the 6th day of the world, but it all goes back to the beginning. And if you're looking at the literal explanation and the literal story. Okay, there was a man, there was a woman, they were naked, they were running naked in heaven, kissing each other, and they lived happily ever after. That's what the story kind of says. But the reality is that if you want to look at the mystical part of it, the world was created, and it was created for a purpose. And then was a man put in this world. And originally he was born or created by himself. Even though our sages teach us that Adam and Chava, Adam and Eve were created together. The front part was Adam and the back was Eve. But first he was created by himself. And then Adam was a very special soul. He was such a special soul that he was called by the sages of Kabbalah a pillar of light. He wasn't a man like like we think, with how we think a man looks like. He was a pillar of light. He was a very special soul. And he was such a special soul that when the world was created, God brought all the animals in front of him and he started naming them. He looked at them, he saw the godly power that enlivens the animal, and he saw the name of the animal, and that's how he named the animals. And then he noticed that every animal has a mate, and he doesn't have a mate. And he got very upset. And he told Hashem, why don't I have a mate? All these animals you made with mates, a female and a male, how come I don't have one? So God put him to sleep. He gave him an anesthesia, put him to sleep, and he created his helpmate. Now in the Torah it says that I will create for you a ezer kenegdo. Ezer kenegdo means a helpmate but will be against him. That's the translation. The commentary says if he merits, then she'll be a helpmate. If he doesn't merit, then she'll be against him. And that's where the whole story started. And then they were roaming in heaven, in Gan Eden, holding hands and kissing. And then you know the whole story. The snake came in between and made them sin. And since then, we are suffering. But the reality is that they made a certain blemish in the first week of creation. And up until today, we're kind of paying for it. We're fixing this problem. Now, there's much more to it. The story goes more in depth and in length, but that's where it all started. That's where the first separation started. And the Torah teaches us that once they sinned, then Adam, he kind of dumped Eve for 130 years. For 130 years, he was like, I don't want to be with you because you made me sin. You listened to the snake and you made me sin. Now I'm punished. I don't want to see you. He literally dumped her for 130 years. And only after that they came back together, and then they had the rest of the kids, and the whole story goes on and on. But from that we learned something very simple, that they had their first breakup right when they were created. I mean, they were trying to be together, and then they broke up. And up until today, we're trying to find this other half in our life. Now, the mystical teachings of the Torah, the holy book of the Zohar, teaches us that the husband and the wife is one soul. And before they come down to this world, there's a certain angel that cuts the soul in half. The female part of the soul goes into the woman. The male part of the soul goes into the man. And then one falls in Los Angeles, and the other one falls in New York. And then they live their life. And for 20, 30 years, they're walking around Earth looking for something. And then finally they meet, and there's an attraction. Why? Because she's holding a piece of his soul, and he's holding a piece of her soul. And then there's an attraction. Then they start dating, and assuming everything is done kosher, they go into a chuppah, assuming they're Jewish right now. We're talking about Jews right now, not the rest of the nations. And if the chuppah is kosher, then at the time of the chuppah, the Kadosh Baruch Hu, God sews the souls together, and then they live happily ever after. Which is not happily, but they live together for the rest of their life. If they do everything the right way, it will be happy. Unfortunately, 99.9% of the couples in our generation, they're not doing it the right way, so they're not happy. And they think it's just not the other half. But the reality is that each part of the couple, it's the same soul. They're just in separate bodies. Now the thing is that each one of them, the Zohar says that the person before he gets married, he's a half a person. Which means until you get married, you're literally half a person. And then you meet your other half. And why do they call it the other half? Because like a puzzle piece, it has to fit, and only one piece can fit. All the rest are not going to fit. And one piece will fit, and that's it. That's how it works. Now the misconception that we have is that marriage, you walk holding hands, and like I said, into sunsets and kissing and all that. That's not marriage. We came down to this world, believe it or not, or agree with me or not, we came down to the world with a defect, with something lacking in our soul. And we came to correct it in this life. And the one that holds the key to help me correct it is my other half. My wife is my mirror. And your husband is your mirror. So most likely everything that you're looking for is not in your other half. So you have a certain list of demands. Why? Because that's how we grew up. We kind of got injected by society. What is the list of demands that I need? And the demands that I hear from people are sometimes outrageous. She has to be at least 5.8. If she's 5'7", I don't want her. That's things that I hear. All sorts of nonsense. Why? Because the list of demands is based on real nonsense. And then when you come to the date, or when you go out searching, nothing matches that list. And then you have a problem. You know, a lot of couples, I have a lot of young students, and they all come to me and they give me like a list of demand. You know, it's more like that. And I tell them one thing: before you go out on a date, why don't you search in the world if there's a creature that exists with the list of demands that you want? It doesn't. The other half, your other half, came to help you correct yourself. Now, this is another misconception, is that people think that we came down to this world to live 60, 70, 80 years, to make as much as money as possible, to drive the nicest car as I can, and to live in the nicest house, and do everything that what we're programmed, and that's it, and then I leave this world and I'm done. But the reality is that I came down to this world to achieve much greater things than that. And I came down to this world to refine myself. I came down to this world to bring the next generation after me. Because if I'm not leaving anything behind me, why did I come here? Why did I come to this world if I can't even leave behind me another generation? I mean, if you're looking at the next generation, they're constantly looking down at they're the kids, their grandkids, and you go now to grandparents, they're proud, oh, my grandkid, he did this and that, my grandchild did this and this. They pride about their achievements of the grandkids. They don't care what they did. They care what their kids and their grandkids are doing. And the reality is that we came down to this world to, first of all, to correct things that I messed up in a previous life. I came down to this world to refine myself. And the only one who's holding the keys to all these boxes is my other half. So when I go to approach and look for my other half, if I'm going to go with the list of demands that I have, I'll never find the other half. Never. Because the list of demands has nothing to do with reality. Because I'm looking for things that I think that will make me happy. And I'm looking for things that I think that are good for me. But it's not what necessarily is good for me. And usually the things that I don't want in my other half, because that's not what I'm looking for, that's the things that I need. So if I have an issue, if I have an issue with being neat, then God is going to give me a very messy wife. That all day long I'm going to have to deal with her being messy. And if I have a problem with somebody chewing gum, then my wife is going to just chew gum all day long. That's how it works. And the problem is that when you go on a date, now if you go with the list of your demands, you're looking at the other person, no, X, that's not the guy, and move on. And usually the things that most annoy me on the first, second, third date are the things that what I need to correct. And the problem is when I'm going on a date, is that I'm going with a partner. Not the date. The partner that I'm going with is my ego. Now, any place that I'll carry my ego with me, I'm never going to get anywhere. My ego is my biggest stumbling block. And unfortunately, we all have an ego. Each and every one of us has an ego that is out of control. And the reality is, I know some of you are nodding, and some of you are like looking at me, what is he talking about? He's not talking about me. If you're the ones who are saying, he's not talking about me, then your ego is out of control. Because we all have an ego. We are created with him. And we have to overpower him and ignore him completely. But any failure in my life is a result of my ego. Whether it's business, whether it's studying, whether it's relationships, it's everything. Because my ego is always, I'm first. I'm right in this argument. He's wrong because he said like this, like that to me. How dare he say this to me? So my ego is always going to make me fail. In anything. You want to be successful? Leave your ego at home. And a lot of people looking at the Torah, and they think the Torah is a list of demands and a list of commandments that are impossible to do. The Torah is actually a manual that tells you, you want to be successful in this world? Here, follow this manual. That's what the Torah is. The only thing is that we're looking at the Torah, I'm like, it looks like a prehistoric thing and a very, weird rituals, and what does that got to do with this world? But the reality is that the Torah is the most oldest book in history and the most wisest knowledge you can imagine. Maybe on the outside it looks like a prehistoric ritual, but the reality is that the wisdom that's in the Torah is the wisdom of the universe. And besides all the rituals and the mitzvot and the commandments, that's one thing. That's the air and the food for our soul. The same way that in this world I need to eat and I need to sleep and I need to breathe, then my soul also needs to eat and breathe. And this is the mitzvot, the commandments. If you're going to deprive your body from food, your body's going to start reacting. You're not going to eat for a couple hours, you'll get a headache. Continue not eating for a couple more hours, you'll faint. You'll have stomach aches. Why? Because your body is demanding food. So if I'm depriving my soul from what it needs to get, which is mitzvot, commandments, and the Torah, my soul is going to start bothering me. It's going to start nagging me. Hey, I need my air and food. And that's why people in this world, they get depressed, they get anxieties, they get fears, nightmares, all these weird things, all these symptoms, health issues, mental issues, sadness, depression, loneliness, all these things, it's only coming from the soul. It's not coming from anything else. It's not coming from how much zeros you have in the bank account, what car you drive, or where you live. This is very external and superficial things. The real thing is coming only from your soul. Now if you feed your soul where it needs to get, your soul is going to be happy. The real happiness, not the external happiness, because anything external which is physical, it's a very small and instant gratification, and that's it. You go to a good meal, a good restaurant, it lasts for an hour. You go to a good movie, 2 hours. Vacation, 1 week. You buy a beautiful new car, you get excited for a month, and that's it, then you're bored with it. But that's how it is. The physical gratifications are very, very short. And then you get bored with it. And then you get annoyed with it. And that's it. And I want to know our next one. Because it's very external, and it's not penetrating to the inner part of your soul. And the only happiness that a person can have in this world is only spiritual. Nothing else. That's why you see sometimes people, where I live, everybody's simple. Nobody has money, nobody has everything, but the most happiest people in the world. They don't need a nice car to be happy. They don't need a big house. Simple, happy people, the real happiness. They don't worry about where I'm going to get money, where I'm going to wear, where I'm going to go. Because the real happiness only comes from the soul. Because the soul wants its sustenance. Now when I'm going out to the world to fish for other half, and my list of demands is a very superficial and external list of demands, I'm never going to find it. First of all. And then every year that passes, then I will maybe remove one section from that list. And then I'm going to be 28, one section goes down. 29, another section goes down. 39 already, 4 sections went down. But I'm still holding a pretty big list of demands. But the more the list of demands shrinks because of the age, then I'm already moving myself away from finding the right person. You know, there's a very famous story. There was a very big rabbi who lived in New York. He's known as the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a very big righteous man. And one time a young man went to him and he asked for a blessing to meet his other half. So the rabbi gave him a blessing. He says, I'm going to give you a blessing. You're going to meet your other half. Months pass, and he never met her. And he got very upset and disappointed. So he went back to the rabbi. And he stood in line to come and see him. And then he came to the rabbi and he told him, you know, your blessing didn't work. I didn't find my other half. So you know what he answered him? Oh, it worked. She just had a big nose. So, that's a real story. It's not a joke. He told him, you met your other half, but her nose was too big. So you right away marked it off and moved on. And the reality is that could very much be that many people, they meet the other half, but he wasn't dressed the right way. Or the hair was not how I was expecting it to be. Or the words that came out of my mouth was annoying me, or whatever. Something that I didn't like. And you know why I didn't like what I saw in the other half? Because it showed me something that's wrong with me. Why do I get annoyed with somebody? Why does somebody able to annoy me? Because they're proving something wrong with me. So I get annoyed. I don't want to talk to him. I don't want to talk to him. Your friends annoy you. Why? Because they tell you the truth straight to your face. The real friends. The fake friends, they tell you whatever you want to hear. But the real friends, they tell you the truth to your face, and you don't want to hear the truth hurts. So you don't like that friend anymore. I don't want to talk to her anymore. But that's the reality. We don't like hearing the truth about us. And my other half is my mirror. It's constantly going to be in front of me. Who wants to be annoyed all day long? But the reality is my other half came to refine me. Now if I'm smart, I'm not looking for these external things that in most cases change. I mean, men think they need to marry like a Barbie. They don't understand that after 2-3 kids, there's no Barbie anymore. And then wrinkles and, a little bit more rounded and all this. Who cares? Who cares? It's nonsense. And I don't want to start saying what men were looking for, what women look for. It doesn't really matter because each one has their list of demands. But usually the external list of demands is nonsense because this world is a circle because things come and go. And a person can look beautiful and 10 years later look horrible. And a person can have a lot of money now and in 2 years lose all his money. We had neighbors that, Baruch Hashem, they became religious and became observant and their life changed. But when they got married, the husband was very, very wealthy. Very good job, a lot of money, everything was good. And the girl kind of married him because she was very comfortable that he has a lot of money. And for a couple of years down the line, he lost everything. They were poor for years. They barely had what to eat. And she was like, I'm lucky that he's really my other half and I really love him because any other superficial lady will be like, okay, no money, goodbye. That's it. But the reality is that you have to be very true to yourself. And the problem is with most people is that they lie to themselves. And they think that what's going to make them happy is A, B, and C. And the truth is that that is not what's going to make you happy. And you have to be honest with yourself. You have to be true to yourself and say, what is really going to make me happy? A nice car or a good heart? What is going to make me happy? Somebody faithful? That doesn't look like a model? Or somebody who's a knockout and she's going to go in, I don't know what. Now I'm sorry I'm talking in such a way, but these are the thoughts that people have. They don't look down the line, who am I going to spend the rest of my life with? People are looking in a very instant way. She has to look like this, he has to look like that, she has to talk like that, and nobody's looking a few years down the line. People change, their look change, bank accounts change, but you know what? The heart never changes. The soul never changes. If a person is a good-hearted person, he'll be good-hearted whether it doesn't matter where you're going to put him. And if a person has a very good character, is faithful and truthful and loyal, and all these good things, that doesn't change. So the point is that the misconception of marriage is, first of all, people think that marriage is all about love and no. It's not about that. It's about another person coming into my life, and I see in that person all the things that I'm lacking and I need to work on, and that person is a billboard and a mirror that I look at that person and says, oh, I have to correct this, and I have to correct that, and I have to correct this. This is the biggest ego challenge we need to deal with. And in most cases, God is going to put in front of me, my other half, is all the things that I don't like. Not what I want, the things that I don't like. And then what happens is when I'm sitting in a date, I'm saying, oh, she has this, this, and this, but I can't stand that, and I can't stand this, and her family, and her sister, and her this, and her...
Why do you say that's the case?
Why is that the case?
Yeah, you're saying it, but what
First of all, there's no ratio. It's not always like that. But in most cases, I mean, I came down to this world not to live here for 70 years and to be successful in business and whatever, the society teaches me. I came down to this world to correct my soul.
I agree.
To fix my soul. And that's why the Torah, when I said that the whole story started with Adam and Eve, because God told Adam, if you're worthy, she's going to be a helpmate. If you're not, she's going to be against you.
Right. But the example that you just gave is that she's going to have this going on with her family, and she's going to have this issue, and she's going to have that issue. Why are you saying that that's the one that we're supposed to be?
No, I didn't say that is. I'm just giving an example how sometimes you sit in front of a person, you go out on a date, you go out on 10 dates. So you have a list of good and a list of bad. I was just mentioning that you see 40% is good, and then 60% you see bad things, and the bad things turn the person off. Instead of saying, okay, let me concentrate right now on the good, the bad is going to stay. I can't change the bad in some cases. Some cases, yes.
Sure.
Again, the thing is, first of all, there's no ratio, I can't say, okay, in all the cases it's like this. I know people that their marriage is very smooth. And finding the other half is very smooth. And they get along very good. Every person is completely different. But usually the ones that everything is very, very smooth and they get married quick and there's no issues and I don't need to hear from them. They don't call me every 2 days. I can't find my other half. This is not the group I'm talking about. I'm talking about the group that unfortunately, and very unfortunately, they can't find the other half. Now we're trying to find out why can't they find the other half. Why so many people in our generation, and it's not already 20s, it's already 30s and going into 40s, why can't they find their other half? Why people, dafka in our generation, find it so hard to get married? Why? It shouldn't be like that. Go 200 years back, I don't think they had that problem. They got married when they're 20, and they had a lot of kids, and they lived a life. Why in our generation, half of society is not married? It's a problem. And if you want to look at it in a very universal thing, that's one thing. When you want to look at it in a very personal way, why are so many people out there that they can't find their other half? Why? There's no answer. There is an answer. Because unfortunately in our generation, the society and the world we live in has programmed us that I have to find certain thing. That's the thing, that's the problem.
So much demanding.
Yeah. And then not only that, everybody has something to say. So I go out with a girl and my parents have something to say. She's not nice enough. She's not tall enough. She does this. I don't like her family. Who's asking you? And then friends. Oh, I hate your boyfriend. Who's asking you? If many people will do the questions at the end, I want to try to go through the topic and then we'll make the debate.
I'll give 15 minutes.
The problem is that there is a problem and we're trying to find a solution. Now I like all my followers and all my students, but I'm fed up with everybody coming to me and I can't find my other half. And half of my Shabbos tables is all the single people. Can you set me up with him? Can you set me up with her? No, she's not the other half. I'm not going to set you up. And it's sad. It's sad for me to see it because people are already in their late 20s, early 30s, late 30s. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that, and it's distorted in our generation because you know what? People come and approach the entire topic with a wrong attitude, with a very bad attitude. That my other half has to answer a list of demands. And I'm going after my other half because I'm trying to find what is that other person going to fulfill in my life. Because when you really think of it, why you want to get married? I mean, I'm assuming that most of the crowd here is not married. Why do you want to get married? What's wrong? You live by yourself. You can do whatever you want. You can throw the shoes on the floor when you come home. I mean, technically, when you're thinking of it, I can't say that because my wife watches the videos, but technically, it's much more fun being by yourself. Who needs this headache? I have to give now an account to somebody all my life and tolerate some annoying person that lives in my home? My wife is not annoying. I'm joking. I was blessed. My wife is righteous. But we have a relationship. But the reality, when you think of it, if you want to now look at it in a very rational way, it's probably much better to be single. I don't have to give an account to anyone. I can come home whenever I want. I can do whatever I want. So why do we want to get married? Why does everybody want to get married? Want kids? Yeah. You know what a headache it is? You know what a headache is, kids? You know how much money they cost? Thousands on tuition. Single people can drive nice cars. Married women, married people, they have to pay thousands of dollars of tuition. I'm joking now, you know that. Kids are a blessing. It's amazing to have kids. Kids are the best thing ever. But they're very hard work. Kids are hard work. You know, I don't have clean clothes. Because every time I lift up one of the kids, I have here breakfast. And here I have all sorts of things. I come home at night and I fall over toys. Kids are not so easy. A lot of list of demands, pulling the beard and... So technically, when you're thinking of it, I'm marrying a woman that I can't stand, and I'm living with a bunch of hooligans in my house that drive me crazy all day long. That's what you want? Stay single. Who needs a 5-bedroom house? Give me a studio apartment and a car with 2 seats. Who needs more than that? But we all want to get married. Why? Because there's a void in my soul. That's it. That's what it is. Something's missing in my soul mate. And it's about my soul, not how she looks. If you're lucky, she's going to look exactly how you want. But you know what? Trust me, I have 6 kids. My wife doesn't look the same how she looked the night we got married. She's prettier now. Trying to get a lot of credit points here tonight. I'm joking. I hope you know I'm joking. The reality is that we're constantly looking, all our life, we're looking to find this other half. We don't even know what we're looking for. Go out to a 12-year-old girl or a boy. Well, boys don't really care, but you go to like young kids and they have this dream, but the reality, all our life, we're searching for somebody. And this is not good, that is not good, but the reality is that something's missing inside. That's why I'm yearning to get married. That's why I can't stand being by myself. I don't want to have a car with 2 seats and clean suits. I want to get dirty from my kids. Because it's my soul that needs it. Not my body, not my bank account, or what vacation I'm going to go to. My soul is missing something, because my other half is the other piece of my soul. And that's why when I meet the other half, there's a spark. There's an attraction. Hey, wait a minute. My long lost friend. Unfortunately, in our generation, the spark, this attraction doesn't come so easy because we're covered with dirt. Spiritual dirt, of course. Because all day long we're doing, we live our life in a very secular way. And I know many people don't like hearing it. But the reality is that we are human beings with a very holy soul inside. And if I'm doing the opposite of what the Torah tells me to do, I'm going to spiritually make my body and soul dirty. whether you want it to hear it or not. But the reality is that if I'm not spiritually clean, then I'm going to go and sit on 50 dates and I'm never going to find my other half. I'm not going to recognize that spark. It's like a windshield full of dirt. You can't drive. So when my soul is covered with dirt, I'm not going to be able to recognize my other half. So I'm not 100%. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not too sure. So the first and most important thing, if you want to have it much, much easier, then you have to refine yourself. And you have to become much more observant and spiritual. And don't look at me and say, oh, I don't want to be this. You don't have to be me. That's my choice. You have to have the basics. At least the basics. We're Jews, we have holy souls. And if you don't feed your soul, it's becoming sick and thirsty and hungry and sad. And forget about all that right now. Now we're concentrating on the other half. You're going to sit on a date. If your soul is full of dirt, you're not going to recognize the other half. Exactly like I told you, she's going to have a big nose. That's it. And you're not going to like that nose and move on. Let's move on to the next date. So first of all, one needs to completely refine themselves. And again, don't look at me and saying, oh, he's fanatic. The basic things. You want to eat kosher. You want to do here a mitzvah, there a mitzvah. I mean, if you're asking my opinion, you have to do all the mitzvot. I mean, there's no difference between Jews. There's no discount in the Torah saying, oh, if you live in Los Angeles, you are exempt from these mitzvahs. It doesn't work like that. The Torah was given to all of us equally, and all the Jews are the same. And if I have to eat kosher, you have to eat kosher. And I have to keep Shabbat, you have to keep Shabbat. There's no difference between us. And the more you're connected to your source, the more sharp your senses become. Forget about now the biblical power that we have to do the mitzvah. No, this is not the lecture is not about that. But when my students, they come to me and they tell me, what should I do before I go on a date? So my answer is, instead of putting makeup for 3 hours, put makeup for 5 minutes. You look fine and refine yourself. Same thing with the men. I mean, the men don't put makeup, I hope, but the reality is that you will never recognize your other half if spiritually you're not tuned. That's first of all. It's going to be extremely hard to recognize your other half if you're spiritually dirty. So if you want to live with something tonight, then at least live with that. Because what happens is that our soul, when my soul does the opposite of what the Torah tells me, it gets dirty. That's it. Spiritually dirty. And then it's very hard for me to recognize. But besides that, I have to totally reevaluate my list of demands. And my list of demands has nothing to do with what I really, really want. It's what I need. You know, when I went on dates, when I wanted to get married, I didn't have a list of demands. I was like, let me see. Let me see who I'm sitting in front of. I don't care how she looks. I mean, if I'm doomed to be with a wife that is not attractive, okay, fine, I'll deal with it. I mean, that wasn't my list of demands. Of course, I wanted. It's important to have attraction, but to a certain point, it doesn't have to be fanatic about every little eyelash. But, I'm saying it in a funny way, but it's sad because that's what I hear from people. She's not really my type. What do you mean she's not your type? What is the type? Who says it's not your type? So the point is that when you're going through your list of demands, the list has to be realistic. And you have to look for the things that matter, not the nonsense. Because things in this world, they go up and down, up and down. The world is round. Everything is round in this world. Why? To teach you that sometimes somebody can be up and then sometimes the person's down. The person can be beautiful today and not so attractive in 10 years. And a person can be very successful now and be not so successful in 10 years. And a person can now be charismatic and very powerful and blah, blah, blah. In 10 years, be depressed and not going to go out of his bed all day long for whatever reason. And there's many different examples to that. So the point to understand is very basic things. And most important, is that I really have to feed my soul what my soul wants. And you don't have to be super duper orthodox freak to be spiritual and to be connected to God and to follow the Torah. But you have to do it. And if you're ignoring that, then that's the first problem you're going to meet. You have to give your soul a little bit of food. More than that, you have to totally fire your ego. It's nothing to do with you. And as long as you're feeding your ego and you're taking your ego on dates, you'll never find the other half. Because she'll never be good enough and he'll never be good enough. And more than that, you have to totally ignore what society and your surrounding is demanding. You have to look at what do I really need? What do I really need? And you have to be really truthful to yourself. If I have an issue with anger, I need a wife that's going to be able to help me overcome my issue with anger. Now, if I have an ego, I will never admit that I have an issue with anger. Because nothing's wrong with me. I'm perfect. They annoy me. No, if I have an issue with anger for whatever reason, I'm not judging anyone. Everybody has their own thing that they need to deal with. That's a normal thing. One person will have an issue with anger. Another person will be OCD about nonsense. Another person doesn't have patience. It's not about judging a person. That's the reality. We all came down to the world with some type of a defect in order for us to overpower it and overcome it. That's it. But my other half is going to be the one who's going to guide me and help me and support me to overpower myself and to refine myself, to get myself to a much higher level. So I have to completely ignore my ego and look inside myself and be extremely truthful to myself and saying, what does my soul want? Why am I now not happy? What is missing in my life? What do I need in my life? And the most important thing is to decode the brain of saying that marriage is about holding hands and kissing before you go to bed and, two nice kids that are dressed nice and they never make a mess. That's not the reality. Maybe in the movies that's how it works, but the movies are completely a misconception of reality. Kids make a mess and kids break things. You want them. Kids are the best school ever. People think that we came to educate the kids. It's the kids that are educating us. If you let them. If you let them, they'll educate you. They'll make you a much better person than you think you can get. But we have, again, an ego and we think, I have to teach my kid. No. You know yourself, you move yourself back, you move the ego, you let your kids show you who you are exactly. And the smart person lets their kids educate them. So to make a very long story short, is you want to take out of this night a few things. First of all, and most important, and that's the part that people don't like hearing, you have to work on your spiritual level. And again, don't look at me and saying that's not what I want to be. You don't have to be me. That's my choice. But you do have to follow what the Torah tells you. And you want to start with these small steps. You want to eat kosher. Why? Because kosher is not about a certification. If you want the mystical explanation of kosher, is that everything in this world has a godly spark that enlivens it, like an energy. Now, each godly spark can either work together with another godly spark or not. So if the Torah tells me don't eat pork, it's not to make my life annoying or to make me walk to a different restaurant. It's because the godly spark that's in that animal, if I will eat it, my godly spark and that godly spark will create a short circuit. It's going to be a problem. So the Torah is very clear, and the Torah tells me, don't eat this, and this animal. Why? Because there's going to be a short circuit. It's going to affect you. Now people don't see the connection, but people in our generation, they're sick. Look how much sicknesses there are, how many diseases, weird diseases. Half this world is depressed and medicated from all sorts of mental problems. Why? Why? They didn't have that 200 years ago, 300, 500 years ago. So it's these little things that affect our soul directly. And one of the basic things is kosher. Because whatever I put in me, you know what the American says, you are what you eat. So the diet laws of kosher is, again, not to make my life hard or annoying. Rather, the Torah is being very clear and friendly with me and telling me, don't touch this food. It's not good for you. It's almost like going to a dietitian, and the dietitian will tell you, don't eat this food. It's junk. Regardless to the Torah, that's a totally different subject, but your nutrition is a completely different problem. And the nutrition in our generation is junk. 90% of what you find in the supermarket is garbage. It's not real food. That's a whole different issue in itself. But the point is that what you put in your body becomes part of you. You put something that is impure in your body, then your entire system will be impure. That's how it works. It's very simple. You put something pure in your body, pure equals kosher, the whole diet law of kosher, then your body, which then manifests into your soul, becomes clear and pure. You see things straight. No confusion. No, oh, I don't know why, and this and that. And a lot of people don't see the connection. But it's very, very simple. What you eat gets digested, becomes part of your blood. The soul's in the blood. That's it. It affects all. Very simple. And many other things. But the thing is that you definitely want to step up your spiritual level. And again, it's not to make your life annoying or limited. People look at the Torah like, oh no, this just makes my life annoying. It's not about making your life annoying. It's about refining you and elevating you to a much better level. So you want to look inside yourself, and each one in their level, where can I get better? I just gave an example with kosher, but it's many other things. Men need to put tefillin on every day. It takes 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's the big deal. If you're not putting tefillin every morning, you don't even know what you're missing. Okay, some people look, oh, weird ritual, putting a piece of leather on my hand, or it's a box on my head, nonsense. But the reality is that spiritually, that's the funny thing, that in our generation, everybody thinks they're spiritual, and they're sitting on the floor making yoga for 2 hours, and they think they're spiritual. That's not spirituality. That's sports. That's making your body more flexible. That's it. People put stones on there. This is the funny thing. We, for thousands of years, put a box on our head, and that's the real spiritual thing. And people go to the Far East and put stone on their body, and they feel they're spiritual. Spiritual is connecting to God, not pretending on the floor that I'm doing something. But that's a whole different topic. But the point is that we want to get to some solutions, how I can find my other half. So the real solution is to feed and nourish my soul. If I'll feed and nourish my soul, I'll find my other half much faster, because my needs are going to be clear. When the person is sitting in front of me, it's going to be obvious. That's not the one. No point of dating for 8 months and breaking my heart again. When I met my wife, I saw, that's it, that's her. No issue. No questions here. She's annoying me, she's the one. She didn't annoy me, but the point is, that you have to listen to your soul. Your soul is going to tell you who's your other half, not your body, not your parents, not your friends, not the car, not anything else. The soul can tell you right away, that's the person that I have to spend the rest of my life. And that's the person that's really going to make me happy. Maybe on the surface we'll fight a little bit. That's a whole different issue. But that's the person. That's the person that will fill that void. And the problem is, a lot of people look a little step forward and they say, oh, that person has these bad habits that I don't like, so it's going to annoy me for the rest of my life. You're not going to be able to get rid of these habits. People have another misconception that they came to the marriage to fix the other half. Oh, I'm going to teach her. No. This is the biggest mistake, that people trying to change their husband or their wife. Oh, I'm going to make a mensch out of him. He's going to eat like a human being. He's not going to eat with his hands anymore after I'm done with him. The reality is that you can't change that person. The same way that you don't want somebody to come into your life and change you, that's the package. That's how it comes. Take it or leave it. And people think that they can change their husband or their wife. And this is the biggest mistake, because you're not supposed to change that person.
Once they want to.
Of course, I'm talking in a very general way. I'm not going into everything particular. I would say that yes, in a certain percentage, you do want to help the other half refine themselves. But certain things in the character, you can't change that. Yes, you're right. And again, tonight I'm talking in a very general way. Don't take every word that I say and say, okay, that's it, black and white. I'm just throwing very big terms and talking in a very general way. Yes, of course, in the marriage, the whole point of marriage is to kind of help each other refine themselves. But certain things, people say, oh, I don't like that character trait, I'll never be able to live my whole life with that. You might have to live with all your life with that. And this is where people are getting very stubborn and very, strong about something. And I'll give you a very harsh example. I have a friend that unfortunately a few years ago, after having a couple kids, the last kid was born with Down syndrome. Now what do? You give it back to the manufacturer? No. That's what you're going to be stuck with now for the rest of your life. Now, I don't like the word stuck because that's what God chose to give it to you. There's a reason for that. It's a present. But unfortunately, people in their life, they deal with things that they weren't anticipating.
Now there's also testing every 10 weeks.
Okay, but even not all the testing works. And it's the number. I give one example. I have a friend that lost a child not too long ago in a car accident. Was he predicting it? Is that something you can test? No. So now his life is ruined, let's put it this way, because he lost a child in a car accident. Because some nutcase was drunk and ran into their car. So in 1 second, your life can change. Without prediction, without tests, without anything. So the reality is that we can't predict our life. People, my sister, when she was a very young girl, she was 37 years old, her husband died, got a heart attack, died on the spot, left her widowed with 3 kids. Did she predict it? Did she test for it? No. That's life. Life throws surprises at you, whether you want it or not. And everybody has to deal with something. Everybody has baggage. Nobody goes through this life without baggage. We all have baggage. There's reasons for that. Some of it can be predicted, like you're saying, you can test. If God wants to give you a baggage, He'll give it to you with all the tests. You can't avoid your destiny, let's put it this way. I don't like the word destiny, but
you also take responsibility.
For sure, but that's what I'm not talking about. I'm talking about that in life, things change in life.
Sure.
Constantly things change. Now, if I'm going to make an account, let me not get into this marriage because in 20 years maybe this and that will happen, that's not the right calculation. Because I don't know what life is going to throw at me. So certain things I can say, okay, this I cannot live with. Again, I see where you're going with what I'm saying, and it's not what we're not parallel with what we're talking. I'm talking about that when you're sitting in a date and there's certain things that you don't like, you're saying, I can't stand that and I'll never be able to deal with it. Some of the cases, you're right, you got to get up and leave. But some of the cases, that's the person. And you have to deal with it. And the example that I gave, so I gave an example of a child that had Down syndrome, a man that lost a man and wife that lost a child in a car accident. There's many different scenarios. The point what I'm trying to say is that sometimes things happen in life that you don't anticipate. You didn't predict that it will happen. You didn't want it to happen. Who wants this to happen now? But that's the reality. So sometimes you're sitting in a date and you're saying, I don't like that, but you might have to deal with that for the rest of the life. So when you're looking at the list, it has to be, the plus has to be much more than the minus. The problem is that people go on a date and the list of demand, if it's not 99.9 check, I don't want it. That's the problem. You have to have it has to have a good balance. This has to be a lot of ease. Can't just marry anyone and suffer for the rest of their life. It has to be a match. But the problem with most people is that the wrath of the demands is way too high. And one little thing I don't like, that's it, I'm calling it off. And again, I'm talking in a very general way. The point to make out of tonight is very simple. And that's the most important, and if you want the best advice tonight, and that is the most important, is you refine yourself spiritually. That's the best advice. And if you decide to ignore it, then you'll come to a lecture like this in a year, and then another lecture like this in another year, and another lecture like this in another year, and so forth. Because I just see the pattern. So you want to look at be in a date and look at a person and says, that's the other half, your soul has to be refined. Because your soul is going to tell you, that's my husband. That's my wife. It's not 100%, it's 72%. But the only one who's going to give the decree, everybody comes and tells me, how do I know it's my other half? You know how many students I have? They tell me, I want you to meet the guy I'm dating. I want you to meet this girl. Okay, bring her to the Shabbat table. What do you think, I'm an X-ray machine? I can look more or less to see if there's similarity, if you know, sometimes you do see. People think I'm like an X-ray machine. No, I want you to meet my other half. This person. I accept, I understand. Why? Because there's this uncertainty. Is it the right one? Is it not? And this uncertainty comes because the soul is not refined, the body is spiritually dirty, so you're not 100% sure, and it looks, I'm not 100% sure. And then how do you know? Maybe you're making the mistake. Maybe it is the right one. Maybe it's not. And the problem with a lot of people is this uncertainty. So the first and the most important and the best advice you can take out of this door tonight is you work on yourself spiritually. And not sitting on the floor for yoga for 2 hours. You take on yourself some mitzvot, some commandments, that they don't disturb your life. Let's put it this way. I mean, I didn't grow up like this. Some of you know my story, some of you don't. Till the age of 27, I was the biggest secular atheist person in the world. I didn't believe in anything. You know, they asked me that I'll talk a little bit of my experience. That's a 5-hour lecture. But the nutshell, the short version of it, that till the age of 27, I was a secular Jew, living in Israel, then in America, didn't believe in anything. I only believed in dollar bills and in myself, and my ego was totally out of control. And then one day I got a heart attack, cardiac arrest, from too many drugs in a party. And I died, flatlined for 7 minutes. My soul left my body. Went to a tour in the heavens. They gave me a tour, and then they put me back. And this is the result. That's a 5-hour lecture in 2 minutes. And when I grew up, if I would look at this, never going to be one of these maniacs. But the reality is that we have a very special soul. And what we see in this world is not the reality. It's way beyond this world. And some people have a little bit of a eye-opener, and they're like, wait, there is something way bigger than this world. If you think you came down to this world for 70 years and then be buried in it and be manure, then something's wrong here. The reality is that we came down to this world on a journey, and there's way beyond this world. And this is not a lecture about proving how real and true the Torah is. But the reality is that we are spiritual beings covered with a body. We're like turtles, basically. We just don't agree with it, because a turtle walks around with a house on the back. We are a soul walking around with a body, but we're turtles.
Sack of bones, right?
Something like that. And the point is that anything in this world that will make me fail is only because I'm not walking on my real path. Because I'm trying to redesign my path based on my desires and basically coming from my ego. But we're totally sidetracking, that's not the point. The point is that when you want to reach to the goal where you want to end up and find your other half, the first of all, most important, you have to refine yourself spiritually. And you choose whatever is good for you. If you want later, we'll do some questions and answers. I'll give you tips. I'll tell you what you want to consider. But what you need to take from me is that spiritually you have to refine yourself. And if you're already holding in a certain spiritual level, then you want to elevate that. Because that's the only tool, the real only tool, that when you're sitting in the date, you'll recognize the right person. It will draw you to the right person. Like a magnet. You're going to be drawn to that person. The problem is, I'll give you an example, a very short story. I had to have a student. And she went through a divorce, and she was very young. She went through a divorce, and then she was looking for her other half for many, many years. And then she met a guy, and she was convinced that's the other guy. And she moved from New York to Los Angeles to date this guy. And I just looked at him, the x-ray. I told her, it's not the guy, you're wasting your time. No, but he's cute, and he's rich, and he's this, and he's that. And I told her, you're wasting your time. Anyways, she came to Los Angeles, she dated him for a couple months, and then they broke up, and she totally broke her heart. Totally broke her heart. Completely broke her heart. And anyways, long story short, he brought her here, and then she was already stuck here, so to say. But then she met her other half. And the whole time I told her, look, this guy brought you here. It wasn't the right one, but he brought you here, and then you met your other half. Sometimes your life takes you to stations, and you're not willing to go through the stations. And actually, these stations are actually what's going to get you to your point, to your goal, to your destination. And I told her, look how it is. If you would now not follow these stations, you wouldn't really meet your husband. So sometimes you have to go through these stations. Let's call it this way, stations. But on the other hand, another different student, that he was supposed to, he had the two options in a job. One in this city and one in this city. And for whatever reason, he was dating a certain girl in the city where the job was less paid. Like a lower pay. And the other job was almost double pay, but it was a completely other side of the country. And he chose to go with the job with the more money. And I told him, but you have something good going on with this girl. Why are you leaving? They broke up. And he's still looking for the other half. And I believe that's the girl that he dumped then because he went to find a job that was double the pay. And up until today, I tell him, I think you messed it up with that girl. And you left because they offered you another digit in your salary. So sometimes we make decisions based on something that doesn't make sense. And then I move myself away from my destination. So I have to look at things in a very realistic way. Now, if I have this void in my soul and I'm looking for the other half, that's one thing. Some people don't have this void. They're like, I'm fine where I am. That's a whole different thing. But if you have this void in your soul and you want already to meet the other half, then the way you look at things has to be completely different. You have to rearrange the list, the demands. Everything has to be rearranged. A new list right now. I have to look at things completely different. What is good for me? What does my soul want? Lower the expectations, be more realistic, not listen to everything that moves, not be bound to every little rule in society. It has to be like this, it has to be like that. The bottom is no nonsense. And when you start narrowing down and you connect yourself to the source, that's the ultimate. You have to connect yourself to your source, which is, of course, God. When you connect yourself to the source, then He will lead you exactly to where you have to go. It's almost like going to the car and putting the address in the GPS, and instead of counting on the GPS, you keep turning. It tells you turn left, you turn right. No, but it said turn left. Make a U-turn. I don't want to make a U-turn. I'm going here. This is a shortcut. If you already put your trust in the GPS, then follow it. Not that I'm a big, advocate for the GPS. They also don't know what they're saying. But just for the analogy, I go into a car and I trust the GPS, then listen to it. Let it take you. Let it take you on your journey. So there's a God in the heavens, like a satellite, like a GPS, and He guides you. And if you listen to the instructions, it will guide you. It will take you exactly where you need to go. When you decide when it's time to make the right turn, not based on your journey, then you'll make a wrong turn. And then the GPS is going to tell you, recalculating, and send you on another year journey. So when you think you're in control, then you lose control. You have to let all the control be only for God. This is where you have to let go of your ego. And say, oh, I'll take care of it. No. Sometimes you have to go through the journey. You have to go through what you need to go through, and God is going to already guide you to the place you have to get. And that's it. But when you think that you're in control, then you'll never get there. So I know by your faces that I completely confused you. So we'll narrow it down to 3 very simple things. A, you have to refine yourself spiritually. That's the key for everything. You choose what's good for you. I gave before the explanation that I said that I didn't grow up religious. We got sidetracked. But the reason why I told you that is that when I had to change my life, it was almost impossible. I was like, what? Now I'm going to become one of these fanatic people? I don't want to have a long beard. I don't want to have a suit. Can't work on Shabbat. I can't drive on Shabbat. I can't do this. I can't do that. It was too much. I was like, I can't handle this. So I would only look for little things. And I would do 50 to 100 things a day. When I'm saying things, I'm talking about mitzvot, commandments. But they didn't affect my life. They didn't affect my life. It was little things. It wasn't these big things. I didn't close my business on Shabbat in the beginning. But on Shabbat I used to do kiddush. Used to make a meal. You have to eat anyways, no? So just get dressed nice. It's a blessing in the beginning. And make it a little bit nicer. And many other things. That's not the point of what I did, but the point is that for 2-3 years, I did work on myself spiritually, and I elevated myself to a much higher and spiritual level, but it didn't affect my life. I looked just the same. I didn't have a beard, didn't have a yarmulke, didn't have tzitzis hanging out. But I was so much more observant, and you know what? It's almost like eating healthy after you eat junk food for years. Suddenly you're like, you feel healthy, you feel normal. And we all deal with certain things. Everybody's dealing with all sorts of emotional problems. Most people. They get sad, they get lonely, they get depressed, they get confused, they anxieties, all these things. We're all dealing with that. You're not the only one. Don't look to the sides now. What is he talking about? We all deal with these things. We're human beings. But one of the things that really makes us like that, moody and all these things, it's only our soul. It's nothing else. My soul is sharp and it gets its sustenance. You don't get sad. All day long you're smiling. You're happy because something inside in you is happy. You're not based on a weather right now, how you dressed. So the bottom line is that you want to feed your soul. You want to feed your soul, you want to give your soul what it wants, your soul would lead you to where you need to go. That's to make a very long story short. Feed your soul, nourish your soul, it will take you directly to your other half, directly to your happiness. You're not going to be judgmental, you're not going to look at things in an external way. You're not going to get disappointed from nonsense, because your soul is going to be your GPS, it's going to guide you straight, honest, and to the point. And in order to do that, I told you, you have to completely remove your ego, you have to work on yourself. And the basic thing to leave this door tonight with some tools is you look in the mirror. That's my best advice. You look in the mirror every morning and you say to yourself, you're not that great. That's it. You didn't hear me in the back? You look in the mirror and you say, you're not that great. That's it. Say that to yourself 3 times a day, you're on a good path. Because the reality is that we're not that great. We also have a lot of faults. And somebody's sitting in front of me in a date, and they're now analyzing me. And I'm also not that great. And when I hold myself as not that great, then the person who's looking at me will say, okay, I'm not so great either. Let's be not so great together. And let's, help each other be a little bit better. And Bezat Hashem, you work on yourself and you refine yourself. Connect yourself to your source. Feed your soul with what it needs. Realize that you're not that great, but with your other half, you will be great. You get to a point that you meet your other half, and together, 2 halves, you're not that great. You put the 2 halves together, then you'll become great. And then we'll meet in another class to how we will live with that other half. But let's first get to the point of the wedding. So Bezat Hashem should leave this door tonight with a little step closer to your wedding date, with a little bit more clarity, with a little bit more, the right way of looking at things. And Bezat Hashem, God will bless you, that you'll be successful, and Bezat Hashem will hear many, many wedding bells. I hope to get an invitation, please. I might not come, but at least I can get an invitation. And Hashem should bless you that everything that you wish for yourself should be fulfilled, and then it should all be merit to go into a chuppah as soon as possible with the right one at the right time. But in order to receive God's abundance and blessing, God tells you, you do something for me, I'll do something for you. Very simple. Sometimes there's a few more things, but you want to get something, then you also have to give. So B'ezrat Hashem, you leave this door tonight with a little change in your mind, and a little change in your heart, and a little bit more focused on what I need to do, and saying, tonight I'm going to start doing this and that, and I'll take on myself this little mitzvah. I'm going to make myself a little bit more connected to my source. But the result will be that my soul is going to get exactly what it needs, and it's going to guide you, don't worry. So again, I wish you great success. And B'ezrat Hashem, I'm hoping to get many invitations very soon. I'll leave you my email. You can email me the invitation. And most important thing is, Bemet, just realize that every day that goes and you're not concentrating on your mission, then it's a day that is wasted. And it has to be looked at in the right and the most responsible way. And B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem will bless you to find your other half. And it should happen very soon. And thank you very much for your patience.